Hi everyone, Purely Rage Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Julien Baker album, Turn Out the Lights. Julien Baker is a Tennessee singer-songwriter. This is her second full-length album, her sophomore record. It came out recently on MATADOR Records. Now, despite missing out entirely on her debut album a few years ago, which when I look back on the reception to that, it seemed pretty hype, but I don't even remember, I don't even recollect it. I don't even remember you guys asking me to talk about it. Shame on you. However, I was pretty intrigued by this new album over here, not only because I was getting a ton of recommendations for it, but I thought some of the teaser tracks were pretty sweet. The song Appointments, or the title track on this thing, both of which made a somewhat big emotional splash with me. Both of these tracks were these beautiful, patient, slowly swelling indie ballads that were fused with like a touch of post-rock and slowcore. The way both of these tracks built up was really beautiful. Both of their instrumental climaxes were fantastic. Julien Baker's vocals, which didn't really win me over at first on these tracks, ended up building up into these immense, passionate, heartbreaking highs. When she reaches into her upper register, her vocals get so expressive and powerful. So there's definitely a great performance element there, though I wouldn't say that Julien's vocals are the most distinct on the block. Even now, after listening to this record multiple times, I might have a hard time sort of pulling them out of a lineup if she were shoulder to shoulder with a few similar singers. And as I listened to the album more and more, I kind of got a grip of Julien's lyrics and learned that that's really kind of her calling card, that's really kind of her selling point. So many songs on here detailing Julien's struggles with depression and self-doubt, failure, being emotionally empty, or just the fight to be a functional human being when you have these tendencies toward being dysfunctional. And the tracks that are the best on this thing have this slow, raging burn to them that is like a bonfire, growing higher and higher and higher, and I'm just hypnotized by the flames. But I did end up being somewhat underwhelmed by the full scope of the record. These linear, gently escalating songs are kind of what Julien does best, and after a while that becomes a tad formulaic. The record starts dishing out cuts that kind of pale in comparison to the songs that do it best, like the song Shadowboxing or the track Televangelist, which aren't bad, but the highs certainly aren't as high as they could be. And then when the songs on this thing veer into the direction of maybe a more humble ballad, the album really kind of loses steam there too. Because Julien's nondescript vocal style and very plain, slightly reverbed instrumentation aren't really enough to keep things interesting, like on the song Happy to Be Here, or Hurt Less, or one of the most tedious tracks in the track listing, Eden. The very steady and flavorless guitar chords on this thing become really, really mind-numbing. They're strummed really lifelessly. And that's maybe one of my biggest disappointments with the record. Like, texturally, it's so average. For anyone who enjoys the timbre of a unique guitar tone, or a closely mic'd piano, or a singer that has a bit of an eccentric flair to his or her voice, there's almost nothing here. But again, the lyrics do sort of make up for it here and there. They aren't about anything revolutionary, I would say. However, just the tone of them, the lyricism does occasionally crush the soul. Like this particular line saying, "I'm an amputee with a phantom touch, leaning on an invisible crutch, pinned to the mattress like an insect to styrofoam, calling out of my bedroom alone. I know what's in my cannibal chest that's been dug out like a strip mine till there's nothing left. Hold the chorus in between my ears until I go deaf. That remind me exactly what I am every chance they get." Which is probably one of the most metal lyrics of 2017, honestly. Like, that's some dark death metal shit. And then you get tracks like Hurt Less, where Julien is very descriptive in delivering to the audience these desires of wanting to die in a car crash out of just a sheer lack of self-interest. These suicidal tendencies that pop up on the record here and there are really sharp, even though, again, I find the instrumentation and the male-female vocal harmonies to be very plain. Like, I could slip them into a Twilight movie soundtrack and probably not get much in the way way of complaints. However, I do find the piano song Claws in Your Back to be a spectacular closer for this album, and I do like it when a record begins strong and ends strong. And while I do have quite a few complaints about this record, I do see the hype, I do see the appeal. I think there are a lot of great fundamentals here. The sound is kind of average, but the mix is well balanced and the instrumentation is pretty well recorded. When it swells, it's very full and gorgeous. Kudos on the song structures too. It's not easy to sort of write these long linear songs that feel like they're lengthier than they are, and for many of them to hit so hard emotionally and be so gratifying. Some of the melodies are really quality on this thing, and consistently I'm pretty impressed with the lyrics. There's just not enough in the way of variation, style, flair, or grace on this record to really kind of get me excited. It's almost like the depression that's fueling this album is also kind of impeding its full potential. But overall, I did think this was a pretty good record, and definitely worth the time of any big singer-songwriter fan, especially if you are paying very close attention to the lyrics and you do like a little bit of a dark, depressive edge coming out of them. I'm feeling a strong 6 to a light 7 on this thing. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best. You're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe, and please don't cry. Just leave a thoughtful, in-depth comment down in the comments if you're feeling thoughtful and you want to communicate some opinions and ideas about the record yourself. Please, you're invited. I encourage it. Over here next to my head is another review you can check out, or you can click on the link to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to hit the reminder bell too, and I will see you guys in the next one. Anthony Fantano, Julien Baker, forever.